Okay, so as usual, I'll mute my microphone so that you have a chance to ask some questions. Except I think we have one question here live as opposed to dead. So maybe we'll start with that, and if there are other questions that can follow. You have one question?
Yes, since it's Guru Purnima tomorrow,
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could say a little bit about the qualities of the Guru and the disciple both, and in particular, what qualities a disciple needs to cultivate in order to get the best out of his Guru, and also where the Guru really needs to be enlightened and liberated for the disciple to be free, or any advanced person can be a Guru.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard that question, but I'll just repeat it anyway. So the question is, since tomorrow is the Guru Purnima, indicating the full moon, could I say something a little bit about that, and what the qualifications are for Guru, what they are for student, and whether somebody less than a fully enlightened individual can be the Guru. Is that correct?
And what qualities the disciple needs to cultivate?
Yes, what qualities is there? Yes, all good. Fine. Well, firstly, I think I need to explain what it means by Guru. And of course, the word indicates transitioning according to the well-known peace prayer, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyoti Kamaya, Mrityo Amritam Gamaya. Well, lead us, please, from the impermanent or the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. And all of these three statements have a similar flavor. They're variations on the same theme. We take the second line, though. Lead us from darkness to light. Darkness representing the ignorance, representing the inference that if we don't get this enlightened knowledge, which is the antidote to it, then of course we won't get out of this birth, life, death syndrome. So, is a guru necessary? What is a guru? These are some of the questions, subsidiary questions that get raised in this subject. Somebody who is able to lead you from this one state to another, but there are different kinds of gurus. The very best teachers, of course, are the incarnations. What do we mean by that? A cosmic balancing power comes. The word becomes fresh and dwells amongst us from age to age, from time to time, and enlightens the whole, not only one generation, but lasts for several thousands of years, because the message that they bring is infinite. However, it's enduring. However, the message is appropriate for that particular age. So the message may change in terms of its delivery, but not in terms of its content, not in terms of its substantial message. So for this reason, any descendant from these, what in the, let's say, the Catholic Church or the Christianity is called apostolic succession, is an important thing. So when we see, is it necessary to have a guru? In most cases, absolutely it is. Then how do we find such a guru? Don't worry about it. You see, if cosmic mind is working on this basis of these supreme incarnations, then any guru will be aligned to this. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Any guru would have to have his personal agency of a mind aligned to the divine cosmic will. In other words, that person, male or female, will be an open channel for divine grace to flow through. And the conditions for that opening would have to be an alignment with that. And that alignment would be like opening a faucet. Now, does a guru have to be absolutely perfect? Does the guru have to be something like the incarnation? No, that's a very unique kind of guru. No, it can be a person who knows the purport of the scriptures, somebody whose mind is aligned instrumentally, who acts as an open channel, and somebody, therefore, who has no motive whatsoever. What are the common motives that we do things for or with? Well, gaining wealth, gaining status. We can give up wealth, but sometimes status is a difficulty. Not retaining a personal ego. And sometimes there's a great confusion because in certain religions we have people who are clearly instrumental, such as priests, such as a hierarchy in a certain church. I'm thinking now particularly of the Catholic version of Christianity, where you have a pope, where you have cardinals, and so on and so forth. And all of these are said to be in a certain lineage with this kind of instrumentality. Are they perfect? They are not. As soon as you shift this idea to instrumentality, then it changes. The Pope, in the Catholic dogmatic sense, is only infallible with regards to this alliance, this faith, this matters of doctrine, but very rarely exercise it. So it is said to occur when such pronouncements are made from the chair, as it were. In other words, when anybody puts themselves in a sense of instrumentality, then the flow of grace operates through them. I had a very recent wonderful conversation with a brother monk who highlighted this and learned something from a guru-shishya relationship. And as soon as he brought this out, then it eased a lot of tension with regards to teacher-student relationships. Why? You see, if the student expects the teacher to be absolutely non-human, then he's made an error. And the teacher, if the teacher has put this out, has stood in that ground, is also made an error. So we can see it, and my example is always like this. Imagine now there's a reservoir on top of a hill that wants to supply water. Let's use it as an analogy for divine grace. This divine grace is there, and how will it flow? It has to flow through a pipeline, and gravity has its effect, so no effort is made. So effortlessly it's flowing. Imagine this water representing divine grace flowing. And water and milk and so on and so forth, they really all are metaphors for divine grace to flow. Why is milk? Well, because the cow freely supplies milk generously. And a machine, you feed grass in one end, it comes out as milk the other, and gives it like a mother gives milk to the calf. So all of these are symbols of divine grace flowing. Then at the end of it, okay, a pipeline is there. There is a faucet. The faucet has to be opened. And in the opening, this water will flow. Is the water any different from what is on the top of the hill or in the pipeline? No. Or even different from any water anywhere else. You see in America what happens, you have the Niagara Falls, but preceded by Lake Erie, and going off into other lakes possibly or other areas. Is the water that flows after the Niagara Falls different from that flowing over the falls? Is that different from the Lake Erie? No. It is the same water. Water is water wherever you find it. So this divine grace is the same, and we have to access it. And why is there an emphasis on this idea of a competent teacher? My preferential term for guru, lest this term guru be distorted or difficult to say, because there's a history, of course, from the 1960s and 70s of self-proclaimed gurus who are clearly far from perfect. So the first thing we inquire is, what is your pipeline? Is your pipeline credible? Is there a good lineage? And the lineage, no doubt, goes back to this divine grace. And so this flows through the human avenue. But when the ego is put aside and the guru or the competent teacher has the skill of doing that, of standing aside and allowing this divine grace to flow, then you then can drink this water. You can get this divine grace. For this reason, they say the Guru is God, and the Guru Stotram is elaborately telling how the Guru is God, not from the human point of view, but from the point of view of this divine grace flowing. The water on the top of the hill, the water in the pipeline, the water in the faucet, the water that is drunk, it's all the same water, divine grace flowing. So a guru will have to, or a competent teacher, as I prefer to call it, has to be aligned with that source. The mind, the attention has to be always directed there, largely speaking. 100% not possible. 100% the human aspect, which is the avenue, the faucet, the mechanical thing, will not be there anymore. You cannot actually cultivate 100% sattva. Why is that? Because then you won't be living. Rajas and tamas has to be there. So a minimum of sattva that everyone has to cultivate would be a minimum 51%. Maximum, let us say 99%, probably less. Otherwise you have a non-functioning entity. Secondly, they have to know the purport of the scripture. There is nothing that we teach in the Vedanta which is not found in a book somewhere. And these books we take as Shastra. Shastra, particularly what is called Shruti. And that is the Upanishads. Vedanta, the word Upanishads, these are synonymous terms. The essence of truth, the fundamental quintessence that never changes. And when taught, will be taught in different ways with different methods. We adopt various methods guided by the teacher who has the insight. And then no motive. So the purport of the scripture doesn't mean to say that the guru has to be in any way literate. We take some examples. Sri Ramakrishna was not literate. Holy Mother, as we know, was not literate. Swami Adbhutananda, called Latu Maharaj, was definitely not literate. But you see, we're using him as an example. When a group of students gathered, he said, please read out this, a scripture, something that is called Shruti, something that is heard. What makes something heard reliable is because it's recited in a certain meter over and over again for generations and generations, and people rote learn it, and they know it's exactly the same as the original. The Quran is a good example of this as well, where it is insisted you have to do this in Arabic, in the original, and rote learn it. Whether you understand it or not, you rote learn it first. This is how the Vedas are learned. You rote learn it. Then, at a suitable junction, you understand what it is all about by listening to it, by reflecting on it, and ultimately meditating on it. So it is to know the purport of the scriptures, and when Swami Adbhutananda Latu Maharaj requested, please read out these texts, he would say, okay, he would reflect and said, yes, that's correct, because he has it from his own experience. So this is in terms of a teacher. What about a student? Well, there are 4 requirements for the student. What are these requirements? These requirements will be, they have to have a level of discernment. What does that mean? It means that they have to have an inkling that this world is not permanent and therefore we should not behave as if it was. And then that leads to a second criteria of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means that if this world is not what we think it is, if it is interpreted in a different way, then our behavior changes. When our behavior changes, we no longer put as much emphasis on the reality and its rewards and the effects of our actions. Now, there are also 6 treasures. These 6 treasures have to be cultivated as well. That represents the third criteria, if you batch it all in one go. And then the fourth will be most important. The most important thing would be a thirst for freedom, or in the theistic language, a thirst for God. Without that, none of the others make sense. So, if we don't have that thirst, at least we can pray for it. And these 6 treasures are really to do with cleaning the mind. They're really to do with practices. For example, we have to practice forbearance, titiksha. This forbearance would be a determination that what cannot be cured has to be endured. There has to be a level of concentration that is cultivated. There has to be a level of persistence, even when things start off well and maybe don't continue. There has to be a level of purity of mind, a level of chastity in our behavior, self-control, in other words. There has to be faith. Faith in what? Faith in yourself, faith in the teacher, faith in God, or the highest supreme principle. And so, purifying the mind with thought, word, and deed is a standard thing. Concentration is a standard thing. All of these are standard regardless. Now, I say don't worry about a guru on the basis that the divine will is operating. And when there is this level of thirst, when there is a certain level of discernment, then the cosmic mind arranges things, a meeting, and instantly recognized. The Holy Mother was instantly recognized, for example, on a railway station. There's my guru. And she recognizes, oh, there's my child. And there and then she gives what is called mantra diksha, there and then on the railway station. A remarkable thing. Now, there are various ways in which this connection occurs, and thereafter there are different types of relationships, and there are also different types of gurus. The most significant will be a Sadguru. That is, when we talk about the guru, we are talking about this particular good guru. That is the Sadguru, the real, essential guru who guides you. Lifelong guru. And Ramakrishna compared this guru to be something like a matchmaker. Oh, my dear child, please meet your chosen ideal. Chosen ideal, please meet your child. Like this, keeping out of it. And what is the true competent teacher's aim? It is to bring such a condition in the student's mind. The student realizes the real guru is their own mind. Their own mind is an illuminating factor. When the mind is sufficiently trained and sufficiently clarified and sufficiently pure, then the light shines by itself. The illumined mind is the guru. The others are simply an assistance. So there are also upagurus. What does that mean? You see, if it's one cosmic mind operating, it arranges a number of different individuals. Can the guru be anything other than human. According to the Bhagavatam, the 11th chapter of it was a conversation between Uddhava and Krishna. And there's a story of the Avadutta with 24 gurus, not all of them human. He learned something from a bee. He learned something from various other, a bird and so on. Like that, 24 gurus. And Krishna remarks, very, very interestingly, knowledge from one guru alone is neither adequate nor desirable. But what he's saying is we learn from everything. In the Chandogya Upanishad, Satyakama is left to his own devices and he gets a teaching. You get a teaching from fire. You get a teaching from the bull first, then fire, then a swan, then a bird, like that. In other words, by shuffling ideas around, we get an inspiration. You see, when students went to their teacher in the forest areas, the teacher didn't initially give them anything. He said, please stay with me, serve me. And the funny question answer session was something like this. Well, what does the guru do? Or what does the student do? Let's take the student first. The student has to work hard, serve their guru. And in doing this, have to look after the cattle and hard work is required. What does the guru do? The guru sits and gives the direction. Oh, I'd rather be the guru then, please. Never mind about the student. That kind of story is there. So we have these upagurus available. In my own life, I can tell you that one was when I was probably about 3 or 4 or 5, up to the age of about 9. There was a wonderful guiding monk that guided me in my life. And then another one was probably the president of the Divine Life Society. I can register as one. And then there was my own guru who happened to be his cousin, Swami Purnananda, 10th president of the Ramakrishna Math Mission. And but then there was my guiding philosophy teacher, who I was so closely connected with, and so on. So like that. And then we can learn from others, you see, because it's the same divine grace flowing. When you see it in this way, you'll see the grace flowing and flowing through the humans who have touched our lives, not only humans, but also events, also places, other various aspects of the whole scenic presentation that we call the divine drama. The same teacher is there, paving the way, making the crooked paths straight. Because all these graces come through these subtle elements, these tanmatras. And so there is something like a divine helmsman that's guiding us through all of this, whether we know it, whether we don't. And when we're old enough to review all the milestones of the past, we can clearly see the divine hand in it. There you are, that's why you did it. We don't question it. We see that was overall for the better. At the time, we won't see it like that. But we'll see it eventually like that. See this constant loving grace flowing through all. Now let's come back then to this original Sadguru. Your original teacher. Is a teacher necessary at all? Is often a question. But we don't ask the question in relation to learning physics or chemistry or art. We assume if you want to take up painting, some teacher has to be there. What is the difference? The difference is these subjects that I've mentioned are academic subjects. They're either to do with the mind in its appreciation for culture or for rationale or for logic or what have you. Catering for, we may say, the two sides of the brain, the two hemispheres of the brain. The one catering maybe for creativity, gestalt, and the other for these other rules and regulations, these other strictures. And a lovely, beautiful balance is required between the two. But creativity, of course, has to be there, very much so. It is through creativity that we really make openings, we get inspiration, we get direction, and we get our own creative input using our particular skills and talents. And so, the type of teacher we're talking about is not somebody who's teaching you all the principles. They can be picked up from books. They can be picked up from scripture. The type of teacher we're talking about is somebody who is a living light. Even though the ultimate living light will be an avatar, an incarnation. That will be the greatest example. But the other gurus will be something like a reflection of that light. And you can see them in the way they're examined and so on a personal level, how they think. This is told to us, you see, in the Bhagavad Gita, somebody who is of steady wisdom, sthita prajna, somebody who is a teacher by virtue of we can see this person and we emulate that person's life. How do they behave is a question asked to Sri Krishna. How does such a person walk? How do they talk? What is their point of view? Can we get into their wiring and understand how they think differently? They will be thinking differently. And they're behaving differently, no doubt. And can we emulate this example? So this is the whole idea of this relationship between teacher and student. And the teacher is not just giving academic knowledge. The principles, no doubt, have to be understood. And so what does a teacher have to do? They have to be equipped to remove all the doubts. They have to be equipped to remove all the doubts, and if that requires them to understand these various scriptures and so on, so be it. But really, really, it is their personal experience. When they open their mouth, then divine grace will flow, and it will be transforming. Their words will be transforming words. So Jesus tells us, you have to have somebody who is authoritatively teaching, somebody who has appointed, as it were, somebody really who is not just in his day. He was talking about the academics, the dogmatists, the Pharisees, the Sadducees. What he said was teaching as one with authority. It means two people can say exactly the same thing, and the one will have no impact, and the other will have a transformative effect completely, because the inner wisdom is there being exhibited and coming out as a kind of flow. Let's take, for example, Swami Vivekananda. What a skilled speaker, but was it skilled? Was it his own skill? Or did he withdraw into the divine and allow the divine to flow through him? On his first speech at the Pali religions, humanly speaking, he was nervous. He had never spoken before in public to 7,000 people, imagine, in a hall. And every time he was called to the rostrum, later, if it hadn't been for a specific urging, he'd probably not have spoken at all. What if now you see the doubts come? What if I make a speech and it doesn't have the impact that is necessary? What if I cannot do my master justice when I open my mouth? What if I hesitate? What if I stumble? These are all human in the human realm of doubts. Because gurus are human. Even those gurus who are incarnations have this human side. Christian theology says they are fully human and fully divine. It took them 320, 330 years to figure out this duality. But of course, more incarnations, more examples of that, you see this duality. When we study the story of Rama, You see the human side of Rama, and then you see the inspired side of Rama. You see the variation in moods. You feel emotion. Yeah, this is human. But when the will is aligned to the divine will, then that person has become an open channel for divine grace to flow. And so when Swami Vivekananda opens his mouth, unrehearsed, the impact of his opening words, other people could say, ladies and gentlemen. Other people could also say, brothers and sisters, or sisters and brothers, as he said in his case. But what was that particular key? What was that particular trigger that he used when he said, sisters and brothers of America, in such a potent way, expressing divine power already within him? What was that opened up and moved 7,000 people to give an ovation that lasted several minutes, giving the impact immediately and allowing all the journalists to go away and write the headlines? They saved the best till last and so on. From there on, he was the keynote speaker. He was the star, if you like, of this hugely important part of religions. So it is this potency, and the potency does not belong to the teacher. The potency belongs to that opening, that channel, that divine flow that flows through. And that is why we have the Guru Stotram that absolutely tells of the unique divinity of the Guru, not as a human, not as a faucet, not as a tap, but as a kind of keyhole that facilitates through which an instrument through which you can go, somebody who can guide and teach, not from the human perspective, but from the divine perspective always. So this is something about the Guru and about the Shishya. Personally, I don't like the word Guru, and Ramakrishna never liked the word also. These terms, competent teacher is a much better way, in my personal view, of expressing it. Now, there's a great advantage if you have a connection with the teacher. And there are many ways to form this connection. One great way is service to the Guru. Seva. Service to the Guru will be so connected. It will be such a privilege. It is such a devotional point of view. Swami Ramakrishnananda spent his whole life, the Shashi Maharaj, spent his whole life, even though he was a great scholar, dedicated to the service of his Guru. Not just while his Guru was in a living body, but also afterwards as well, in terms of relics, in terms of the temple worship and so on. So that was a great grace, a great blessing. Guru Purnima is a chance to do that, is a chance to align yourself or renew a relationship with the Guru, so to speak. And also to get the grace and blessings of the Guru. But Guru Purnima is more properly called Vyasa Purnima, because Vyasa is the Guru of all Gurus. How do we come to this conclusion? We come to this conclusion because he was a radical reformer. He managed to systematize the Upanishads through the Brahma Sutras, Vyasa Sutras. He managed to author the Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, all of these things. He managed to reform people's way of thinking. When you see the various schools of thought, every incarnation comes along and addresses the issues of the modern age and provides a formula specifically for that age and leaves a legacy like that. Vyasa did this. And we can say that Swami Vivekananda in a sense, was a modern day Vyasa. How do we come to this conclusion? Sister Nivedita highlights it in her great master as I saw him. There she relates the life of Vyasa to the life of her master, Swami Vivekananda, going through an inevitable sequence of events. If there had not have been a fisherwoman called Rani Rasmani, then there would not have been a Dakshinaswar temple. If there had not been a Dakshinaswar temple, there would not have been Ramakrishna sitting there. Without Ramakrishna, there's no Vivekananda. Without any Vivekananda, there's no Sister Nivedita. And we are particularly dedicated to Sister Nivedita because when Vivekananda left his body, 4th of July, American Independence Day, then the living voice was continued through Sister Nivedita. His message was carried through. Ramakrishna's message to the whole world was carried through by Swami Vivekananda. Now, Vyasa, as we know, was born of a fisherwoman also. Leaving all this caste business aside, all the great gurus, son of a fisherwoman, Rani Rasmani of the fisher caste, and so it goes on. So we have to have this alertness. We won't say, when will the Guru arrive? If you have this yearning for spiritual life, all the avenues will be open to you. All the resources will be available to you, including that of a competent teacher. And you will instantly recognize such a one, and vice versa. We instantly recognize the student. And then there will be a compatibility, so that the teacher will have, with their wisdom and insight, some formula specifically for you. It may take a long time, but we're not in a hurry. And every person's formula will be different, for sure. So I think I answered your question, probably. Yes. All right. Okay. We go a little further, that the normal way of establishing this relationship would be through mantra diksha. That means an initiation. It means an initial step in spiritual life, where a certain potency is passed on through a grace, a heightened potency is passed on through the means of a specific mantra that embodies a sound embodiment of your chosen ideal and will be specific to the student, and directions that will be specific for the student that may change as you grow, simply because Microsoft can issue something, but then you need version 2, version 3, version 4, Windows this, Windows that, updates. So this is the whole significance of this Guru Purnima, simply because without this Guru and this concept of this Guru, then a vital component of spiritual ingredients is not there. And this is so not just in the Orient or Oriental systems, but in the Occident also. Of course, it's pronounced in Buddhism, in Jainism, in Sikhism, and of course in Hinduism. And it's also part of Sufism. But what about Western countries? What about the Occidental? What about Christianity and the rest of Islam and Judaism? Judaism has rabbis, teachers. Christianity has what we call spiritual directors or confessors. Every great saint had a confessor or a teacher. They just don't emphasize it or put it in this way. And that what about Islam? Islam has its imams, but Sufism has this very, very clear lineage as well. This whole idea of teachers. Yeah. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light on what is a very important full moon period, which is tomorrow, on Monday, because you see, Monday is Moon's Day, lundi in French, Moon's Day, you see. Every day of the week has its prime minister. So the moon presides on Monday, Mars presides on Tuesday, Mercury presides on Wednesday, Jupiter presides on Thursday, Venus presides on Friday, Saturn presides on Saturday, and the Sun presides on Sunday. So this wonderful arrangement is there. I think that's all I need to say on that. So we wish you all peace and a beautiful rest of the day. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swami.